Hey, coworkers.
Welcome to Coworkers in Crime, the podcast where office chatter meets crime discussion.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Crystal.
Yes, we really do work together.
And yes, we're totally obsessed with true crime.
From Watercooler Whispers to cold case deep dives,
we're here to bring you stories that keep us chatting way past our coffee breaks.
So grab your coffee,
lock your desk drawer, and let's get into this week's case. All right, we're back to another Watercooler Whispers. Let's take a breath, refill the coffee, check in on a few cases we've been following, the ones that keep resurfacing in the headlines, and the ones that you message to us. So Watercooler Whispers, for those just joining us or new to our show, this is the ones we do when we want to talk about what's currently in the news. So Rachel and I like to talk about old cases. This is just the episodes we do to be able to talk about what's currently happening. We release one of these a month, and they're in real time. So we release them pretty quickly after we record them. And these are the things that just keep showing up or that you've asked us to talk about again. So each of us bring 3 cases, and sometimes we do a little less depending on how deep we want to get into a case. But Rachel, you want to bring your first one?
Yeah, let's talk about what this one's kind of heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the Lindsey Clancy trial, which is taking place in Massachusetts. The trial just started this week at the end of July, and Lindsey has pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of her children back in January of 2023. And this is 2 very different narratives. The prosecutors are arguing the killings were intentional and planned, and the defense plans to argue that she was experiencing postpartum psychosis and was over-medicated. I don't think I've ever heard of this many witnesses, but maybe I have. But there are nearly 200 witnesses expected at this trial, and it could run 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's I'm watching this trial, and it's hard. They gave the details of how the children were found. I won't even watch that in court. I've had to skip through it several times, and I will say that they keep trying to bring it back up, which I feel is lessening the impact. You're almost numbing the jury to it because they can't cry for 5 weeks. The impact of it in the beginning was so heavy, and I can tell that it's just, you're beating them down. It's just really sad. The defense argue it's just almost the repeatedness, but the prosecution was like, well, you let us know who you think wasn't important enough and we'll remove all of their witnesses because there's 3 children that were being worked on and her. So they have all the firefighters. Anyone who was on the scene is talking about this child and what it was like to interact and this one and this one. And so it created more witnesses. And it's very devastating. In Massachusetts, the way you determine innocence or guilt is beyond a reasonable doubt with moral certainty, which is different than most states. And how are they going to do beyond a moral certainty here when they take the same pictures in this case of her in the hospital and they explain how they see it and they explain how they see it? Well, guess what? No matter which one you believe, it's a reasonable doubt because there's 2 ways to look at the same picture. This is a rare, weird case. It has got heated people around it for reasons that make so much sense. It's a crazy case. I don't know if you've seen any of it, but it is devastating.
I have not. I haven't. I've watched clips here and there. I haven't followed it. You watch trials.
Yeah.
I wait for you to tell me what's going on.
But
I think in this one, her husband, Patrick Clancy, he was the first witness on the stand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, that was more emotionally charged of an opening. And it just, I didn't even know what to think. I didn't know how he could, he's trying to get justice for his babies. I get that. But at the same time, how can you, to have to sit there and relive all of that, relive that 911 call you made, relive, the paramedics telling their part, he's sitting through all of this. And it's just, I don't know, it's just heartbreaking to me. This case, I think whenever it comes down to whether it's a man or a woman on trial and it's a mental health at the heart of the case, I think these ones are always hard for me because it's like, well, did anybody notice? Did anybody get them the care they need? Were they seeing, more than one doctor and getting medications? Because people do that when they see more than one doctor and get more than one prescription. So so this one there's children involved, and you and I know that those ones are always the hardest for us to report on. And I think this just has a little bit of everything that makes it so difficult to listen to, but also so important. I don't think if you have a mental health issue, you get, a free pass. Let's get you the help you need. It reminds me of that Andrea Yates case. And she has come out, and I believe she's come out and said, like, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well,
this is where I'm getting the help I need, and I'm in the place that I need to be in.
You can tell that if you watch Lindsey in court, you can tell she's heavily medicated, 1. 2, you can tell this still heavily impacts her. She cried yesterday all day during testimony, which would be Friday. She cried all day, and she was listening to the first responders were talking about it, and it was not easy for her to hear. And I will say that she was a nurse. She was a labor and delivery nurse. She documented everything. You could tell she was looking for the right solve. And when you work in labor and delivery, and this is what you see all day, your very firsthand experience is, here's what you're going to see next, and explaining to women what it's going to be like when they go home and their body is drained of all of these hormones. And this is first language to her. So it's such a devastating case because I could see both sides. And I don't know that many do. You hear some people talking about it and they're immediately like, there's children involved, immediate under jail. And I get that. She's going to live with this the rest of her life, whether it's in this institution or this institution. That's going to happen. There has to be some medical culpability. If everything she wrote in those diaries and everything that Patrick is saying is true, there has to be medical culpability. We have got to start taking better care of our women. This is just unbelievable. So this shouldn't even be a leg to stand on. We should be so good with how we handle these things. People didn't just start having babies, right? Like, we didn't just start having children. So it's very sad. It's a devastating case. Patrick is remarried. He said, I am here to tell the story how it happened. He has been very not verbally clear about it, but basically in his filings and what his lawyer has filed on his behalf, that I'm not here to support either side clearly. He's there to say, no, this is what we talked about. This is what she was going through. This is what she verbalized to me. This is how she felt about it. This is what we discussed. And it's hard to watch. It is hard to watch. And like I said, I have to skip over the children part because I already knew it back in 23. So yeah. I'm glad you brought this one up. I would not have thought you would have been the one to bring this one up. I will say that. You usually are not one to bring up children cases so easily. No, so I'm very surprised you brought that one up.
Yeah, the children's cases are always very difficult. And I still think in our country we need to do more to support people who are having mental health crises. I think there's room for improvement. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So I'll bring my first one. This is just some updates on Nancy Guthrie. We've been seeing some things come out. For those who don't know, cannot believe it was January 31st. But back in January 2026, Nancy Guthrie, mother of Today Show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, she disappears from her home in Arizona, and investigators find evidence of foul play, including blood in the home. Security footage also captures someone tampering with her doorbell before her disappearance. A ransom note comes in demanding $4 million in Bitcoin, threatening to increase the demand if payment isn't made. That was on February 2nd. And on February 6th, a second note claims that Nancy died shortly after being kidnapped because of health complications and says she was buried in nature. Authorities stress they have not confirmed that, and they continue treating this as an active investigation. They just released the letters in hopes that someone recognizes something, the language, the grammar, punctuation, phrasing, writing habits, or the handwriting.
Wasn't the letter, when it asked for the Bitcoin, didn't it say USD?
It did. Yeah, I think it did.
To me, that sounds like it's not from someone in the U.S. Right. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But that just screamed to me when I heard that. I was like, we're looking for someone outside the United States.
Right. We don't say USD when we talk about money.
Right. I mean, so if I sent you a note asking for money, I wouldn't say in US dollars. That would, You would be
Yeah.
like, Rachel, what is your problem? Why
First,
are
I'd
you
be like,
saying
why
it
are
that
you
way?
writing me to ask me?
Well, all right. That would be your first thing. The second thing is you'd be like, I know I need to pay you in
You're
US
weirding me
dollars.
out. Why
Yeah.
are you writing me?
So that I thought was interesting. So I
Yeah.
find this whole
That's a good
thing,
point.
um, I think how they wrote the letter, there was something else I saw somewhere where whoever wrote the letter said, you won't be able to negotiate or you won't be able to contact me. Which I don't know of any other case where they've released a note like that I've ever heard those words. If you're the perpetrator, don't you want to stay in contact and have a
Mm-hmm.
way to contact the family? I mean, yes, Bitcoin is electronic and we send the money off. It goes into somebody else's account. We're done. But how else do you contact the person to be like, hey, we're trying to get this money together. Can we have another day? And I wonder if someone will notice. But are they releasing it outside the United States?
I think so. I think this just went global. I think they're just like, hey, everyone, anyone. Because, and here's another thing. This is a little plug for our future episode of the history of criminal profiling. I mean, it was so close. And I thought about this. If you're thinking about ransom profiling, and it's what you just mentioned, this has investigators who work in ransom cases completely baffled for what you just said. They don't give up all their power by being like, oh yeah, like you can't contact me and there's no proof of life. And they would never tell you a couple days later she's passed. They wouldn't. Then all their leverage is gone. You have no reason to give them money now. So typically this is not what happens. So either they are not that bright or they are not the real kidnappers is what most are saying. So yeah, super crazy that this case is just still going the way that it is. But again, people are calling this one a cold case. And yeah, it's taking a long time to solve, but I personally would not call this absolutely cold right now. I would say there's a stall. I will say mistakes were made, but I do not think this is cold. I think we're still getting things all the time.
I think they still have leads. And to me, if there's a lead or something you're investigating, the case isn't cold. You're still actively working it. To me, a cold case is one of those, it's in a room, in a box. We exhausted all of our leads. We exhausted all the evidence. Everything came back as inconclusive or not leading you anywhere. Those are cold cases to me.
Yeah.
Whether they're a year old, 30 years old, or somewhere in between.
Immediate stall.
But 6 months and you're still actively investigating. I mean, we're not hearing about it all the time anymore, which I think might be better for the case that it's not in our face 24/7. But they're still doing things behind the scenes. And that's like the whole CSI effect and the profiling where we talk about the Hollywood part. It gets done in 30 minutes, 60 minutes. You walk into the lab, you drop it off, you come back 10 minutes later, you have your answer. Yeah. It doesn't work that way in real life.
Yeah.
It was months for that hair DNA to come back. That they've come out and said that it's not related to the kidnapper. One of the big things is people have to remember these things do take time. They don't come out as quickly as we would like. And I think we see it also in a lot of autopsies. When they release the autopsy results and just say this person died this way, but it's pending toxicology. Those can take months to come back, which, I mean, it baffles me, but months to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so
maybe we do a history of toxicology, but I have always wondered why it's so hard to get a toxicology report back. I don't know if it's because they don't find what they're looking for in the first one, so they have to search for a set. I don't know. That would be an interesting breakdown because we're starting to learn more and more about toxicology and how it impacts the body. So what was the next case you brought?
So the next one I have is one that someone reached out to us with, is Nolan Wells. And this one is top of mind. And so I really feel this one is still very much in that early investigation stage. And I don't want to say too much on this one, but do want to mention it because it is a prominent case right now. And one that, quite frankly, it baffles me. Because I feel like early on they came out and were like, it's an accident, case closed, move on.
Yeah. They tried to pull that. And that never goes well. Coming out and just saying, immediately we know, and we already know, like that's not a good thing. Like, no, unless you have video footage of what happened, I don't want to hear that. But I will say the biggest thing happening now, and like Rachel, I am not going to discuss the back and forth. There's a lot of young lives involved in this, and I think it's really important that we don't just start blaming people until we have all information. The most important piece that's being zoomed in on right now, that I feel is probably the hottest topic of it, is the call about the boat and what was happening in the background when they called in about their boat sinking. There's a lot happening in the background. They're digging into what they're hearing there. It is bringing up new questions. It is bringing up new investigative angles, which I think is really important. It gives them more questions to ask. They're starting to make connections on how everyone is connected, how these two know each other, how these two know each other, what was going on here, what did they know about this, and that's really important. So more is being uncovered. We have a grand jury ahead. There's no public answers, but that doesn't mean there's not information. So I think people being very careful with this one is the best word of advice I can give, because eating your words with young lives, it happened in the Idaho 4. All of those college students, people were pointing fingers at them, blaming them, and they were there to help, or they were trying to give information, and these kids were blamed and their lives ruined. Ruined for a very long time, but mentally, they're always going to feel like everyone sees them as a bad person. And these are young kids still coming out of high school. I feel that we got to be very careful with this.
Yeah. So I think we will discuss this one on a later episode, but we need more
confirmation.
Confirmation, not speculation at this point. So what's your next one?
So I went to England for a recent case. Yeah.
Look at you.
I know. Rachel got me out of my bubble. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about, so my second story is from England. It's a highlight on how investigations don't always end when someone is arrested. So there is Taylor Charlton. She's a 14-year-old that disappeared from Barnstaple, England on May 8th. Police launched a massive search with helicopters, drones, dive teams, sonar, and volunteers everywhere. On June 24th, remains are recovered from the River Tawe. And this week, police confirmed through DNA testing that those remains do belong to her. So they have finally found her. Now, they did arrest a woman in her 40s and a man in his 20s, and they were both arrested on suspicion of murder. However, both have since been released on police bail while detectives gather the rest of their evidence. But what I find is really interesting is that in England, being released after arrest doesn't mean investigators don't have a case, which that's the same here too. I mean, you can be out on bail while charges are formally brought. Again, well, more investigation is to get ready for court. But police often continue forensic testing. They conduct additional interviews. They analyze digital evidence while they're waiting for labs. And they're deciding whether to formally charge them with more. Is there more they find out from that? Another challenge was that the water complicates. When you're found in the water, it washes away evidence. It erodes things. It can be contaminated. You have outside sources like the animals and things, and basically the environment can take away from it. So that means your DNA is less relied upon. There's no digital evidence, there's no surveillance, and there's no witnesses to interview. So, and when that's what you're heavily relying on, it's harder if some of it is eroded or doesn't exist. So I wanted to make sure we talked about this one because we have an arrest, and there's 2 arrests. That means a case is going to happen. And this one was, she disappeared in May, and now they're arresting someone. So what is that? June, July, August, 3 months.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick turnaround to finally find her and then be able to have an arrest that quickly. And now they're building cases. I think that's fabulous. So happy to hear there's at least a little bit of resolve for this. 14. Ugh, so sad.
And so my other case, we're going back to Massachusetts because there's a lot going on in Massachusetts.
Such a small place for so much to happen.
We're looking at you, Stoughton, again. We've discussed in Watercooler Whispers about Sandra Birchmore, and this case just has so many layers to it. So currently, the I guess now former police chief Donna McNamara she's filed a lawsuit claiming that she was retaliated against by the town manager Tom Coulter because of her cooperation with federal investigators in the Sandra Birchmore case. Now, these are all allegations. They're not findings. The town has placed both McNamara and Coulter on paid administrative leave while an independent investigation moves forward. The town hasn't ruled on anything yet. So again, they are on paid administrative leave. And it just all ties back to the former Stoughton police officer, Matthew Farwell, who has pleaded not guilty to the charges related in Birchmore's death. And prosecutors allege he groomed and exploited her beginning when she was a minor in the department's Explorer program. And the medical examiner no longer considers her death a suicide, and the federal case continues. So it's just this becomes a employment dispute. It's a whistleblower claim. It's the retaliation within a workplace and ongoing federal murder case. And it's all still unfolding. This is very much an active case. Both the Sandra Birchmore, Matthew Farwell, and the police chief, Donna McNamara, with the town manager, Tom Coulter. I mean, this is craziness. And
Have you
it's
seen
all
any
over
of her public releases? Have you seen her how she talked about this case?
I feel like I have, but I'm not pulling it up in the moment.
If you can, I can think of a couple of them that I was like, yes, there's some clean people out there. And to hear she's on administrative leave only reaffirms all of those who are looking at Massachusetts, like what is going on over there. It only further solidifies that there is something seriously wrong.
The town manager
over
said
there.
That she resigned.
I wish there was a way that,
Then she didn't, obviously, because she's like, no, I didn't resign.
I don't blame her. 10 toes down, stay.
Yeah, this just goes to show you that not all cases are cut and dry, right?
Mm-mm.
Not even like evidence-wise. I'm not even talking about that. It's like, well, now we've got this piece over here, and I'm sure there's more coming out. Like, I feel like this is like layers of an onion, and we have just started peeling back the layers.
Yeah.
I feel like there's about to be some major, announcement in this case that
Absolutely.
you and I will be immediately hopping on to record to discuss it, because we're going to be like, and we're releasing another Watercooler Whispers the day after this one because something exploded.
I didn't know she had taken leave. This is news to me. So I'm going to have to look into this. I really have always been like, okay, good. At least Donna's on it. Like, so I have not seen anything about Sandra recently.
And you started off in Massachusetts with the Karen Reed case.
Yes.
And that kind of led over here to Sandra Birchmore. And now we've got the police chief, Donna McNamara, who by all accounts seems to want to be that to bring some good to the
department. And unbiased. I think it's an unbiased look, because one of her I can't say exact words, so I don't have them in front of me. One of hers was this young girl was deceived by people she trusted. She really looked up to law enforcement. That's why she was in the Explorer program, and she was exploited. And she mentions that, and I was like, whoa, I can't believe she said that. Good for her. And then this is the next thing I'm seeing, is that she's on leave. So it's like the last time I heard her name was her giving that statement.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to go back and look. I'm sure, but I
can tell you my news feed is all about Lindsey, Donna McNamara here with the Sandra Birchmore case, Nancy Guthrie. Like, these are the things that pop up frequently in my Google alerts, because these are the things I'm following, because they're so different. And they all just make you realize how much trust we put in to investigators and law enforcement and what they're coming out and saying and all those things. And we really hope that they're all being honest.
Yeah, I think we'll be in mass for a little bit. So I am looking forward
Massachusetts
to
has some interesting cases going
it
on.
does.
It's kind of
Hey,
interesting.
I think
For
it's
such a
great.
small state like New England, or small area, we'll even expand it out to New England. For such a small area, there's a lot going on for true crime stuff that it's
Yes,
just, it baffles me. It's a small area and there's a lot to follow.
absolutely. I agree. But it really is great because I think it is one of those like leading examples of, hey, we're going to go ahead and start exposing and cleaning up because then it'll make, I think, more areas follow suit. So it'll be where we can start to look at, hey, that doesn't look right. It'll create where we can start to ask questions and know. I do think it is positive for us as a country. And I've said it before. I think Karen Reed is a modern day trailblazer because of that, because she fought against a system that was very hard to fight against and lost everything. So did her parents. And that's a bigger domino that I won't get into. But I do really, every day I say a little like, I hope Karen Reed slept well last night. I hope she gets to sleep in today. I say that all the time because I know that can't be hard what she's carrying right now. Anyway, my girl crush, we can pause it. So my third one, it's not necessarily a story about one case. It's more of a trend. It feels like every other week, really, we're hearing that this old case got solved. This one from the 80s or 90s or early 2000s. And I want to say like, that's not a coincidence. Recent cases are getting breakthroughs and I pulled a few of them. So there's an Arlington case and I don't want to mess up this name, but Iracema Chavez, I think that's how you say the name. I'm really sorry if it's not, but Ira is a 32-year-old that was found stabbed more than 100 times in her apartment back in 2012, January of 2012. Investigators collected DNA from an unknown woman at the scene, but there were never any matches. Thanks to investigative genealogy, they finally were able to pull a possible suspect that they found on a discarded fork, which the DNA left on it was a match. And isn't that crazy? A disposable
If we
fork?
start seeing people leave like restaurants with their utensils or showing up at like nice restaurants with their utensils, and if we start seeing that, like I would start being, why are you bringing
Yeah,
your own fork, spoon, and knife to
yeah.
this place? Or why are you taking that plastic fork home with you?
Where were you in the 80s? That's what I'm going to ask.
Or before that, where were you the last 30 years?
Yeah,
Tell me.
where you been? Another one is actually Auckland. In 2011, this 27-year-old realtor was shot while hosting an open house. For years, investigators had no arrests, despite extensive media coverage. But in 26, they arrest a suspect after reopening the case, re-examining evidence. And it's another reminder that old evidence can become new evidence as our technology continues to improve. And that's why when we listen to cases, the chain of evidence is so important. Where has it been? Who's been holding on to it? Have you logged it? Where was it kept? It's so, I will say I've never been more curious about how we're training our officers and do they really understand the implications of not following a chain of command or evidence? I mean, it's just so important.
Yeah.
Another one that I found, last one that I'll just kind of bring up, but is Sandra Robinson. Her case sat unsolved for decades before renewed investigative work and advances in forensic science finally produced scientific breakthrough for investigators on long-awaited answers for her family. And cases like this show us that, and show detectives that you're never done working a case. Like, just wait for science to catch up. It creates a patience, I think, and almost I feel this may make, if someone is stuck on a case, instead of trying to manifest or try and come up with an answer or make a piece fit, maybe move on to an old case and give this one a beat. Like, we're going to get better technology. Go solve one and give other families answers. I think it creates imagine if you were handed a box and like, hey, this case was from 30 years ago, Rachel, why don't you go work on that? Feels like busy work, I'm sure, at one point, that it's like, why are they giving me all these old cases that I can't do anything with? No one else can solve it. Why are you handing that to me? I'd feel punished almost. Not now. It's like, hey, yeah, let me go back and start giving some of these families some solutions. So anyway, I just want to talk with you through like why this would be happening. And I'm sure you can even answer some of these.
Well, DNA has advanced a lot in the
A
last
lot.
20 years. I mean, think about when DNA first came about, you were talking about you needed such a large sample to test. And
Hmm.
now I feel like it's smaller than the head of a pin, and they can get an entire profile, or not an entire profile, but they can get a good, that's a big enough sample to test, which just baffles me.
Think of
Baffles me.
all the different types of DNA now. They say trace DNA, transfer DNA. Like there's
Right. There's
not
all
just
sorts of
DNA.
other DNA. And, actually, for the history of, I was thinking about doing fingerprints because I recently learned like the first case ever used for fingerprints. And it's just wild that someone went, if I put this powder on this spot, I find someone's fingerprints. So anyway, that might be a future
Yeah.
history of, or a little blurb we put in somewhere else. But
Well,
yeah,
and
so I mean, everything's always moving forward.
I think investigative genealogy, of course, is a huge piece of it, which isn't the same as DNA. It's not a criminal DNA database. And we talked about this before. You don't get in CODIS unless you are you have to be convicted of a crime. Some don't even go in for being suspected. And sometimes
Right.
they do. It just depends on the state you live in and how they do that. But this is just people that are turned in voluntarily their DNA to see I found out I'm 1% Balkan. Like, I mean, that's why, I
Right.
wanted to find
But
out.
what we don't want to do is don't not get your DNA tested if you want to find out your where your family's from.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like with all these cases of genetic genealogy solving cases or pointing to a family tree a limb on a family tree and those things, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people might start second guessing whether they want to do those DNA tests to find out where they're from, or do I have any cousins that I don't know about, or do I have a long lost aunt, or whatever the case may be. I don't want to turn people away from those things because those things are fun to find out.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
I think they are turning to these databases a whole lot more to try and close those cold cases, close that case that happened in 1950, 1960, whatever the case may be, and give families answers,
Yeah.
which to me is the most important thing.
And clean up society. Hello. I mean, I'm sorry, but if it's a third, second, first cousin, I don't care. Like, I did struggle with the whole conspiracy theory of the whole thing of like, oh, the government's going to have. I don't really care. I'm not bringing disposable forks and throwing them away. I don't care. Like, I am not careful about what
Haven't
I
done
Google.
anything. I'm not
Yeah.
worried. I'm more worried probably about my Google searches because of all the cases we look at. I'm sure if
Right.
someone,
Yeah,
they'd be like,
for sure. Which
did you
brings
see
me
this?
to digital evidence, which is also a reason that technology is helping open things. Is they're now able to look at your phone, your email, your cloud backup, your GPS, your social media, cameras all around everywhere. So that's helping, which wasn't useful 20 years ago. So it's just suddenly more valuable. They didn't have all this before. Now they do. You can look back at so many things. I'm sure 20 years ago, there's still go look at AOL accounts. I mean, I bet people were doing things back then thinking, but just goes into the abyss. Imagine if you could pull all that old stuff. I can't wait for the first AOL case to be solved. Like they were instant
Right?
chatting. Yeah.
And public attention, I think, is the other big thing.
Mm-hmm.
People like us
Yeah.
who are podcasters, who
Yep.
are telling these stories, who are getting them out there. You've got TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, all these platforms, and just news in your face 24/7. I think it just reinforces that people can come forward. They can stay anonymous. They can provide a new tip. And someone who may have been, what was that one we were talking about? Gabby, where she was in a photo of someone from whenever they were there.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped establish where she was. So you never know what you might have. Look at your photos.
I think the most important one that you're talking about is people deciding to talk. I've seen things where I like on TikTok, which is one of my favorite social medias, oddly. I used to like not even want to download TikTok. I wanted nothing to do with it. It just sounded silly. But I will tell you that I've learned more from the comments of TikTok, just watching like people will play clips of trial and you'll see what people hear. And I'm like, I didn't even hear that. It's like when you and I talk. What you and I talking about cases has opened my eyes to so many different angles that I would have never thought about. Jack the Ripper being a woman. Come on. I like would have never thought about that. It was one of the first things that I was like, oh, I want to talk to her about crime all the time. It's how my girl crush on you started.
I
just
do try to have a
wanted to hear
different
from
view on just about everything. Not to purposely have a different view.
No,
But,
but
shout out to my 7th grade history teacher who always said, never take the first story you hear as the gospel truth. There's always more than one side. And it's what did he say? Something about like, it's your due diligence to investigate both sides of any issue and then reach your conclusion. So
yeah, that's awesome.
If I remembered his name, I would give his name, but I really don't remember his name. Sorry. 7th grade history teacher.
I remember mine telling me right string, wrong yo-yo. So you're on the right path. Just don't. And that's such a silly thing to say, but I still say it from time to time. Right string, wrong yo-yo. So those who remember Coach Babin, that's what he used to say to us.
Right church, wrong pew, which for the longest time I didn't understand. I'm like, but it's the same thing. You're on the right path. Yeah. You're just not there yet. So
yeah. Well, these were great cases to bring. You surprised me with the ones you brought. So I was very surprised that you brought Lindsey. That one is such a rough case and not, I know one that you normally will cross the street to avoid. I know you don't like those cases. So, but it's just such an important one right now. I really, really think that's an important one for our medical future. So anyhow, well, thank you for joining us this week for Watercooler Whispers. Don't forget, a lot of the way we get ours is like through people emailing us. I think we get more emails than anything else or texts. You can reach out to us if you know us personally, but you just let us know what cases you're wanting to hear. Those are the 2 ways we get them the most. Follow us on social media. Go check our show notes for the handles. But until next time,
coworkers.
That wraps up this week's episode.
Thanks for listening, whether you're at your office, at your home, or somewhere in between. We're glad you're here.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Like what you heard, leave us a review and share it with your coworkers.
Got a case you want us to cover or office drama that feels criminal? Send it to us at coworkers.crimepodcast@gmail.com or check the episode notes for all of our social handles. Until next time, coworkers.
Stay curious, stay safe, and stay caffeinated.